Perfect with no flaws at all are the laws of Allah. A way of life, a way of life, a way of life, a way of life. Islam is a way of life.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Brothers and sisters in Islam, welcome to this episode wherein we continue the discussion on the domestic challenges which face these spouses. And I believe it's time to provide solutions, or shall we mention, why are there problems first? Why are there problems? What are the causes for the problems?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa mutadi wa hidah, amma ba'd. You know that we're coming from an Islamic background.
Yes.
Therefore, as Muslims, we believe that any calamity that befalls on a Muslim is due to his shortcomings.
وَمَا أَصَابَ مِن مُصِيبَةٍ فَبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُمْ
وَيَعْفُو عَنْ كَثِيرٍ.
نعم.
So whatever happens of a calamity that is because of your own doing, and Allah Azza wa Jal would forgive a lot.
SubhanAllah.
And Muhammad ibn Sirin said this. May Allah have mercy on his soul. He said that I commit a sin and I see the traces of my sin on the behavior of my wife. Which means that if you do something wrong, if you're sinful, this would affect your marriage, this would affect your job, this would affect your life. Directly or indirectly, you may not know this, but this is your own doing. And that is why previously they were so righteous that they can count their sins. Nowadays, right, left, and center, and we don't know which one of the so many sins that we've committed was or resulted in what we're facing now. So I believe that if you want to have a happy life, akhi, stop doing sin.
Yeah, but is that a general rule that every time something bad happens, it's because of a sin? That takes us in a direction where we're saying that everything is like it's the fault of you.
It's either a test from
That's
Allah,
what I'm saying. So now we're like
or
50-50.
something you have done. And for example, in the Battle of Uhud, we know that the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, disobeyed a direct order from the Prophet ﷺ and came down from the mountain, and hence this caused a great fatality in the army of the Muslims. And Allah mentioned this in the Quran, that what had happened, those who were martyred and those who were injured, was due to the fault of you, meaning as a whole.
But we can give so many examples of, you know, things that happened to the Prophet ﷺ. It wasn't because of any sin. And that's just a test from Allah.
I think that's just an amazing topic that you've opened. And I can't resist commenting on this, because I think this really is to do with your internal state. This is what it's all about, right? And let's just go back to the example, right? Now, there is this interaction between the husband and the wife. But how do you react to your wife? She says something, or she does something, or something happens in your house. How do you react to it? You know, so two different people may react to the same incident in totally different ways. One, your reaction may be positive. What your wife may say may not annoy you, it may not upset you at all. Why? Because you are in a state of peace and tranquility within yourself. But your sins, what does your sin really do? It actually disrupts you internally. Okay, and so when your wife says something, then you don't respond to it in a good way, you take it in a bad way. So I think the thing is here is that this is generally about calamities. A calamity can happen to somebody, to two different people. For one person it's a calamity, and for another person it's an opportunity. That person increases in righteousness, increases in good deeds, and it's something that actually brings them closer to Allah. Whereas the other person feels it as if this really is a punishment. It's exactly the same thing happening to two different people. So I think that the reality is that it's how you respond. And that how you respond is conditional upon whether you're obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Because in the previous episode we were saying that, oh, it's a communication issue. And now here we're saying it's your sins that caused this. So if the guy is sinless, then there's going to be no marital problem?
Yeah, may I? Alhamdulillah, salatu salam ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi man wala man ittaba hudahu ila yawm ad-din. Amma ba'd. I would like to add something we mentioned, commenting on the previous episode about the communication. Okay, so a sister should understand that her role actually at home is to make her home paradise on earth, heaven on earth. Second, that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. Second, the man needs that place to find that tranquility and peace. And a man needs sometimes to be by himself. Give him that. Okay, you come, you want to be alone, by yourself. You have problems, you need to think about them. And he doesn't give you that chance.
Sheikh, this is, sorry, just very briefly, for the sisters to understand. Men, this is how men deal with things. Generally, they sit and they try and figure out their problems themselves. And when they want some help, they're going to go and ask someone, right? But whereas women tend to share their problems and communicate their problems. So I just want to say in terms of...
So we need to understand it's the nature of the man. So if your husband wants to be himself, leave him, give him that, okay? And even when you want to help him, seek the right moment, be smart. When you should know when to talk to him. Is he in the mood or not? Now you are not in the mood, you have problems. She says, oh, I am your partner, tell me everything. Come on, leave me alone. Okay, I want to, yes, this is the reality. I want to think, okay? When I need your help, I will let you know, okay? So, and also we seek advice from each other because the Prophet ﷺ is our example and he sought Salama's opinion and piece of advice and he acted upon that. So this is very important that is.
And then let's flip it, I'll let you continue, right? Because then the woman, if we're saying that she needs to communicate, then he needs to listen to her. And
yes, and the time where that we mentioned before, the Prophet ﷺ would sit with his wives after Isha, listening. And you have to be attentive and listen to her and let her talk. But we should know that we cannot make a man a woman or a woman a man. Everyone has his own different personality. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. Regarding how about the marital problems that took place in the Prophet's house? Is this because of the sins? No. But Allah is teaching us in the person of the Prophet ﷺ, because he's the role model. He's the example. So Allah is telling us, see, if this is my Prophet, and he had these problems, who are you? So this is natural, that it is going to happen in your house. So Allah is teaching the whole ummah in the person of the Prophet ﷺ. For example, he makes his Prophet to forget in the salah, to teach us how to behave when we commit such a thing. So the Prophet ﷺ is an example to follow. That's why every one of us has a secret things in his life. But there's nothing secret in the life of the Prophet ﷺ. You know everything about him.
But truthfully, now that answers that issue. But one can easily turn around and say, okay, fine. Then the prophets who suffered, Ayyub alayhi salam, and Nuh, and we don't necessarily have that very lesson. We know their sunnah was not, preserved like the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salam. Isn't it that the scholars have actually addressed this issue by saying that, yes, the calamities befall people, and when they befall people, there are various reasons.
We are not talking from that perspective.
But that seems to have been the issue.
No. When it comes why Allah tests the people, okay? To test the people to elevate their status or to expiate their sins. But now Allah is teaching the ummah in the person of the Prophet ﷺ. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Because he is the example. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made everything to happen in the life of the Prophet ﷺ. So that when I study the life of the Prophet ﷺ and I deduce lessons, you see, this happened in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and this how the remedy, this how he behaved, this is that.
I believe that when I make or I face a calamity and I attribute this to my sins, that it is positive for me.
Yes.
Because it makes me revise my life and try to get rid of my shortcomings. Though I don't, make fun of someone who had a calamity, say, ha, Allah Azza wa Jalla is punishing you for this. This is not for me. And if a tsunami takes place in XYZ, I would say that this is a test from Allah Azza wa Jalla. But I wouldn't say that this is Allah Azza wa Jalla is punishing them. There might be some of them being punished, some of them being tested, some of them Allah Azza wa Jal is blessing them with this calamity so that it would erase their sins or elevate their status in paradise.
And those who drowned, there's martyrdom for
They're
them.
martyred, yes.
So we have to take a short break, inshallah, and we will pick up right afterwards. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Assalamu alaikum.
A way of life, a way of life, a way of life.
Welcome back. So among the reasons, or among the reasons why there are problems is perfectionists, or people really trying to create, they wish they could customize the spouse like you would do for a car or for a garment. And truthfully, this is impossible because they were already created by Allah the way they are. Is that one of the reasons? And if so, how do we get over that obstacle?
Very big mistake people make in marriage. I mean, actually, this sort of goes back to the previous, we didn't even mention this, you know. I'm going to marry someone who's like that, but you know what? I'll shape them the way I want. I'll make that person the way I want to make them. It's a big mistake, you know. And I think this is a very important point. I mean, specifically, the Prophet ﷺ, for example, mentioned about women, you know, that she's made from the bent rib, and the most bent part of the rib is the top part. So don't try to straighten her, because straightening her will be divorce. So enjoy her the way she is. And so this attempt to try and whether it's the wife trying to change the husband or the husband trying to change the wife, and we're talking about some essential characteristics. We're not talking about here a sin, and you're trying to get your spouse to stop sinning. Of course, you have to do that.
Glad you clarified that.
Yeah, but there's some basic characteristics a person has. Don't think you can mold a person. And I think that's a big mistake in marriages, that I want this person like this, and that can lead to some very big problems.
It often happens when like the wife may be sensitive, and then the husband says something and she starts crying, and he says, stop crying. Stop crying now. And then she cries more. And it just doesn't work. It's like you just want her to instantly, you know, act accordingly, but it's her nature that at this time she wants to cry. And men sometimes we fail in recognizing that.
No,
so
the reason she cries, she carries on crying is because...
You don't understand her.
Yes, because she's expecting you to come and...
Yeah, give her a hug. That's what I'm saying. He wants a hug.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Brothers and sisters, it is very essential, really.
Let's have a group hug.
Subhanallah.
No, you guys are close
You know
to
what?
each other.
Subhanallah, it is just like a child. She needs that. Just try it when it happens, and you'll see. Things will cool down. Subhanallah. And one of the mashayikh said, he said, don't believe your wife when she tells you, if you are a man, divorce me. I don't want to live with you anymore. You know what she wants to say? Love me more.
What a funky way to say it.
Yeah, love me more. She doesn't mean it. She doesn't mean it. But the shaitan will not leave you alone. Oh, come on, be a man. Don't see, you don't have any manhood.
What I tell people, like...
She's challenging you. You say, or leave the house, and she will be maybe chasing you. Come back, oh coward, come. Say, yes, I am coward, okay? Okay, bye. Go till things cool down, okay? Come back. Assalamu alaikum. I'm sorry. That's what happened. Fatima radiallahu anha, made Ali upset. Ali radiallahu anhu, he left the house. He went to the masjid, he slept in the masjid, prayed 2 rak'ahs and slept. The Prophet ﷺ came.
Abu Turab.
Fatima, where is Ali? He left the house and he was angry. So she made Ali radiallahu anhu angry. The Prophet ﷺ went to the masjid, finds Sayyidina Ali sleeping. The kafar fell down, his cheek was in the dust. Said, oh father of dust, get up. Ali radiallahu anhu went back. Things cool down. So it's a matter of understanding. And so when she is crying, and she'll have, stop crying. The reason you are saying stop crying, because it hurts you. Because you feel inside you, the poor girl is, so you want her to, that's why if you smack your child and your child is crying, you see, okay, hold it, stop. Because you feel the guilt inside you, you feel the pain. Okay, so that is very...
So going back to the issue of, you know, seeking perfection, it's a disease.
No, it's not. It's not a disease. The illness is in wanting things to be not on their nature. For example, you marry a woman and you don't want her to feel jealous. This is illogical. It is something built in. She's programmed to be jealous, and it's a positive thing. What's not positive is if she acts upon it and burns your second wife's house, then you have a problem. This is an illness. And let me go back and reflect on what Sheikh Abdul Rahim said. Now, when you get married, you have to accept your spouse as they are. You have to unconditionally love them for who they are. Now, there are small things here and there that you may change or request that it would be modified and edited a bit in you and in them. My problem is when people do not live every moment for its own value. Sometimes Satan comes and they make them fall back and look at the past. And they expect people not to change. So I would reflect on my 30 years of marriage, for example, and I would think, oh, my wife was like this and that. Now she's changed. And I neglect the good attributes that were perfected, and I only focused on the things that she picked up during the journey, which may not be that good. But I neglect the good side. And this is one of the biggest issues. The Prophet said this, alayhi wasallam. He said, لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنة. A man should not scrutinize and look for the shortcomings of another believing woman. If he likes something, or if he abhors or dislikes something, he will like so many other things.
So don't be negative.
Yes. So living in the present, akhi, have appreciation to what you have. And don't look back. Because if you look at, for example, how she looks like 30 years ago, you're not looking how she used to cook 30 years ago. Now she is, mashallah, a professional cook. So you have to weigh things better.
It sounds like we're always coming from the man's perspective. It's always like, what does the man get? What does the man... I think a lot of husbands are like tabani. They're just like, they're lazy in the house. They want to be served. They're watching TV. They want their wife to be like this and whatnot. And you find a lot of men are not stepping up to be a man. Maybe a lot of solutions will be if this person, figures out how to be a man. Things can happen. We're almost like making it like the woman, it's all her job to make sure the marriage goes good by serving him and giving him his time and cooking for him and looking good. And
the woman has the same problem. See, she always sits back and reflects. Oh, my husband used to take me out. He used to do this. He used to do that. Now she does not reflect on his minimum wage he used to charge and not buying her things. Now he's buying her necklaces, gold, diamonds. He's taking her instead of the restaurant once a week as he used to. He's doing that once a year, but to a resort, for example, for a week or two with the kids, or taking her for Umrah. So the wives,
but if she says she doesn't want that, she doesn't want to go to a resort, that's for him. He wants to go to the resort. The
Prophet ﷺ said that they are ungrateful, unfortunately. So this is a feature that females stand out in the crowd with. But men, I have to agree, there are so many men. My wife always tells me this. She says, you guys are lucky. The Prophet says that we are ungrateful, and that's why some of us would be in hell. But you guys, the Prophet did not do this to you, yet you are also ungrateful. And I say, by Allah, we men are ungrateful. Yet, the responsibility is on us, reduces this ungratefulness, while the responsibility upon you makes this as a priority that you should be grateful for. So I know where you're coming from, and I definitely agree with you that the sisters have the right to reciprocate, but not...
in the other episode where you're saying that companion, that his hair is going wild and he's this and that, Sheikh Salim was talking about. And then when he went and fixed himself up, probably he just took a shower. That's it. He just took a shower, and she's like, he's the best. Like, sometimes it's that simple for the men. And I actually, if men put in a little effort, they might actually find the marriages a lot better.
True.
They just shower and comb their hair.
I agree.
And I think, Sheikh, there's another thing I want to point out specifically about what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about the ingratitude of women. But this can go any way. whether the man is like this or the woman is like this. It's not just ingratitude, it's a specific way of being ungrateful. He does one thing wrong and then she treats him as if he never did a good
That's what
thing.
the hadith says, exactly.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. And this is, this is more than just ingratitude. This is a dhulm. This is a nasty oppression on someone. Because, yeah, you can say, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. But to treat the person like you never did anything good,
in your life.
In your life. And I mean, the husband can do this as well. But it tends to be a little bit more the other way. We can know that from the hadith. So it's specific type of, and I think anyway, generally, just to mention, that we should develop a gratitude attitude. It's very important. I mean, I do this in my family. We sit down, not regularly, but we sit down, even the kids, we all sit down, and we just think about something, we're grateful for. We keep a little diary, and everyone goes around the room and we say, okay, what are we grateful to Allah for this week or for this day? And we think about it. And what would life have been like if we didn't have this thing? And there's no reason why the husband and the wife couldn't just sit down and just talk about why I'm grateful that you're my husband and why I'm grateful that I'm your wife. You can do things like that. There's nothing wrong. And it mashallah, increases the love between the husband and the wife and our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
SubhanAllah. And this is what Allah reminds us when He says, وَأَتَاكُم مِّن كُلِّ مَا سَأَلْتُمُوهُ وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. Allah has given you from His bounties where they are innumerable. You can't count them.
You can't count them.
You can't. And if you try, you cannot. So the blessings of Allah, Allah has overwhelmed you with His blessings. So we have to be grateful. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take away these blessings. If you don't thank Him, Allah will deprive you of such blessings. So if you want to maintain and protect Allah's blessings, you should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly, always. Always you should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Well,
regarding being idealistic, the stories we mentioned of Sayyidina Umar is an example we should keep always. Sayyidina Umar, he made the comparison. Okay, if he gets upset now, what is it? Not a big deal. But see what he is doing for me.
perhaps we can conclude the episode just to be fair and balance things out. That the Prophet ﷺ did say, خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ وَأَنَا خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِي. The best amongst you, the men, are the best to their wives, and I am the best to my wife. So that the sisters will not feel that it's all them. The man is expected to actually be the best to his family, and we ask Allah to enable all the men to act according to the hadith, and the sisters to be concerned and worried about the narrations which address them in particular. And we will not end this yet, inshallah. We will be having another episode dealing with other aspects of marriage, bi'idhnillah. Jazakumullah khairan for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A way of life.